How about a walk in the park? A most unusual park in a most unexpected place. Elizabeth Palmer is our guide.
Build it, as the saying goes, and they will come. And did they ever? Walkers and lovers, dreamers, tourists, family, and friends. And they come especially to the cantilevered walkway jutting out over the Moscow River, the new selfie destination of the city.
A short spin with the selfie stick will show you why. Behind me right now is St. Basil's Cathedral and the Kremlin, but if I turn just a little bit, the view changes completely, and that's a Soviet power station. Turn a little more, and the Moscow River comes into view, along with one of the very famous wedding cake buildings from the Stalin era. And just as interesting as the backdrop is the backstory of this place. Very few people around me realize it was designed by an American.
It has become the most visited destination in central Moscow, and that makes me have chills and shivers.
Yeah. Among architects, Charles Renfro is a celebrity, famous for designing grand public spaces like the Highline Park in New York. But bringing that radically modern vision to Moscow caused a little culture shock.
This bridge goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. We had a hard time getting it through.
Did you? Why?
Well, because of the fact that it's not a bridge, and I think the Muscovites were wanting it to be functional.
Right.
Why should we build a fairly expensive feature in the park that does nothing? But you see how popular it is.
It's the showstopper.
Yes.
Filled with light and life, this park is a prime example of how much Moscow has changed. 2 decades ago, the site was home to the hulking Russia Hotel, a Soviet landmark famous for its 3,000 drab rooms and its cockroaches. Finally, in 2006, it was demolished. For years, the site stood derelict until, in 2012, President Vladimir Putin ordered up a park.
We questioned whether we should do the competition. I mean, politics being what they were.
Renfro was as stunned as anyone when his firm won the competition to design Moscow's first new park in 50 years.
The idea that we could make something this intimate, this special, in the center of one of the world's busiest, biggest urban cities was just too titillating and too exciting. Pollination.
The Americans worked closely with their Russian partners to design 32 undulating acres covered in native plants and trees.
They love it here. You can see they're very happy, and they're bringing in all kinds of fauna, bees and other...
The bees.
And birds, too, drawn to this green refuge which recreates all of Russia's landscapes. Here, for example, are plants from the far north, but look up, and there are the fairy tale domes of St. Basil's. Renfro's partner, landscape architect Mary Margaret Jones, calls it wild urbanism.
Here we are right now, we're lost in this birch forest, yet the city is right there. So it's wild, but it's urban. What interested us was the fact that it is a park, it is a landscape. And landscape is something that speaks to all people.
When they enter it, they leave the city behind.
The park managers, they love this part of the park. They say it's a little too romantic sometimes, but we think that's great.
But tucked under every hill in the park are hidden treasures. Visitors can go inside to see a mock ice cave, a virtual reality tour of Moscow, or the Philharmonic Orchestra. In a magnificent new concert hall inaugurated just weeks ago that sits underneath this graceful glass dome. President Putin himself boasted that the hall was the best in Europe. This summer, Renfro and Jones, along with their Moscow partner Pyotr Kudryavtsev, spoke at the edgy Moscow Urban Forum.
I think the thing that worked out best was international cooperation.
Russian-American relations are at
You're
their
gonna go there.
lowest point. I have to go there. At their lowest point in a long time.
I think it's wrong to say that American-Russian relations are at their worst point. What's at a bad point is our leadership around the world. But I think the people that are actually making this world a better place are doing so more cooperatively and more effectively than ever before. This is a park for centuries. This is a piece of the city that will last well beyond anybody's lifetime. It's a park for, eternity.